Hello, World of Tank Blitzers, it's Littlefinger, and I am back with another full tank review. This time we are looking at the Churchill gun carrier here. This is a British Tier 6 tank destroyer. Funny looking machine here. Obviously you can see it's got nice big flat front. And I know Bushka's talked about this tank several times and ripped it a new one. But I was actually pleasantly surprised driving this tank, and part of the reason is this gun is pretty amazing, super accurate. You've got some fairly good frontal armor there. I think it's 167 millimeters on the front. So you're going to get a lot of bounces. Mobility, obviously, is the weakness of this tank. And then this tank has wonderful credit coefficient of 149, the highest in the game. So we'll take a look at it. One of the downsides to all of these British tanks is they always have a lot of modules you have to research, but obviously you want to get up to this 32-pounder gun, 214 penetration on AP. APCR is 246, and you're doing about 250 damage per shot. So damage per minute, 2,400. That's one of the top TDs in the tier. Now, just looking real quick, you can see here as far as equipment goes, I'm only running top tier. I haven't invested any additional coin on second tier or not. But anyway, gun rammer, we're going to increase that rate of fire even more, just because I feel like this tank already has a very good penetration number, so we don't need to increase it there. Working on improved modules here. And then also as a TD, we really want to go with the camouflage net because that really helps us with that 7% reduction in visibility when we are moving, and then 14% when we are stationary. And remember, use bushes as best you can as well when you're in TDs and stationary. If I were to move on just real quick, I think I would probably go with the supercharge because that 30%, it's already got a good shell velocity. That 30% is really going to add a good boost to that. The aim time, like I said, is really good on this tank. Not too worried about that. Probably go with enhanced armor, and then I would go with probably the engine accelerator here. It's really going to help out on several things there, including our engine horsepower, which is one of the weaknesses on this tank. And then I'd probably go refined gun, vertical stabilizer. You're not going to be shooting too much on the move, so refined gun, and then the last two is really up to you. I don't really talk about those because I can't really tell much of a difference in game. If anybody can, please let me know. I'd be curious. Jumping over to blitzstars.com, if you guys aren't familiar with this website, please go check them out. They do a wonderful job in bringing you stats on World of Tank Blitz. So anyway, we have pulled up here all of the Tier 6, well not all, most of the Tier 6 TDs. Churchill gun carrier on the left. Obviously the tank with the most damage per minute is the Jagdpanzer 4, but if you compare this to all the other TDs, we are well and above the others. That's why you see all that red to the right. And you look at this penetration number, we are way above just about all of these other tanks, which is really why I like this tank. Had no problems penetrating even Tier 7 tanks. You look at, we're doing 250 alpha. It's still relatively good compared to these other tanks in combination with our pen number. So I guess that's why our DPM is so high. Aim time is real good there at 1.72, and our dispersion at 0.308 really just compares nicely with all of these other tanks. Another feature with this tank, although it didn't really come into play with the games I tried on it too much, but maybe now that I know this, negative 10 degrees of gun depression on this tank. You can work hills on it, which is really useful. And obviously our speed is our big issue here. Only the AT8 that I've got pulled up is slower. But what's nice about it is this terrain resistance of only 1, so it doesn't feel sluggish. It's going to accelerate nicely. It rotates pretty good. But when we get down to the miscellaneous and extras there, 149 on our credit coefficient. If you guys can play this tank well, you can certainly make a good amount of coin in it, and we'll talk about that. So there you see turret armor, 225. Well, technically it doesn't have a turret, but that frontal armor on that front plate there is 225. Obviously well above all of these other TDs, even with the hull at 130. And so, I felt like this tank really played well, and I'm going to show you how I played it in games here. All right, so first game in the gun carrier, we're on Port Bay and top tier, and primarily wanted to just illustrate this game first, because I felt like, while it wasn't a great game strategy-wise, it's probably a very typical game in this type of tank where you can get your shots in without having to move too much, and then just an example of how much money you can make if you have a good game in it. So anyway, you can see over there on our right that VK has pushed all the way through the middle, and he's spotted now. He's starting to take shots. Nobody on our team is going to push around that corner there, and so that VK has pretty much made himself useless to our team, and you will see at the end of the game that he does 0 damage. So anyway, just testing out this gun depression. Obviously it's not going to work here, but just seeing if I can get some spots. And we've got that AMX spotted up there. And again, our KV2 has also pushed up way too far. He's going to get pushed on by this SU. Luckily he gets one good shot in, and so I can climb the hill here, and I know I can get at least 2 shots in. So I'm going to drop adrenaline just to make sure that AMX is bouncing shots on me. And so I finish off the SU, and then drop back down to cover here. So now I've got a little bit of support behind me, and they look like they're about to move in on that Churchill. And the SU is taking on damage here. And you can see there on the move, the aim on it's really good. I didn't have much of a target there, so we are working on getting this Churchill out, even though that T-34 popped in front of me. Focus firing to get, obviously, that a high DPM tank out of the game. So there goes the Churchill. Game's still fairly close here. We're down a tank, obviously, and we're going to get... we're going to look around, and this T-34 is going to back up. We're going to get him tracked and set his engine on fire. So we get a nice bit of damage out of this. And I know that they're closing in around me. That SU really should have pushed forward and tried to turn around. And this is when that KV2 comes around, and I'm trying to angle and wiggle and do the best I can. He's going to shoot an HE round into me for 300 damage. But you can see how fast this reload is. This SU trying to get away. We track him there, and we're going to reload and finish him off. You can see we're up to over 2,000 damage already. But again, this KV is going to load up and hit me with an HE shot, and that's all it wrote. So again, I didn't move far. You saw how fast this tank reloads, how accurate this gun is. Oh, we do 2745 in damage, and now if you notice that 50,000 credits there. VK 0 damage, the AMX 1 shot, the SU 1 shot, the VK probably that was 2 shots. Not a lot of help from this team, obviously, but either way, it turned out to be a loss, and we made 50,000 credits on it. Alright, here's our second game, Oasis Palms. We are headed out to the dunes as top tier, and we're going to do a good bit more driving this time. And you can see a little bit of the maneuverability of the tank. And, it's kind of one of those things here where I thought maybe it was my low expectations of this tank. And here's AMX. I mean, that's not what you do in a light tank. You don't sit in the back in a bush. So I'm sorry I pushed him out, but we need him out front scouting, using his view range to, they don't have to necessarily do damage in a light tank, but you know, look at this VK up here. He's getting spots, and that's what a light tank is meant to do. So I don't like to see guys that aren't doing the right thing in their tank. You know, if you want to sit in the back, play a TD. But anyway, I digress a little bit. So I'm just hanging back here. You can see I've got my camouflage, and I know I'm safe from getting spotted at this point in time. And they've got 4 guys all right there. They're doing a good job not pulling up over the ridges, and we've got a couple more down there in the typical camping spot for TD. So realize that this position is not going to work out, so we are going to drive along here. 26 kilometers per hour is our top speed, going up hills here, 13, 12. So we're getting to a point now we can see that SU-100Y. We get 1 shot into him. Not going to be able to reload here in time to get the kill. Unfortunately, we were close. See this KV-2, he's out all on his own. I'm going to fast forward to this. But one of the things I realized when I played this tank, KV-2s have a hard time with the gun carrier. I don't know if they're just using the wrong ammunition, but we pull up there, shoot him towards the engine, set him on fire, and look at that, 960 we just blocked. And 2 shots later, we've done 700 damage and finished him off. So away we go again. Now we can close in on the rest of the team as we've picked off kind of their lone tanks that aren't in a group. So we're coming up over the ridge here, and you can see this nice on the move gun depression shot. We're going to drop adrenaline maybe a hair too early. Get this shot as we're going up over the ridge and finish him off. So 3 shots just like that in this tank. And you look at the turning here, I don't think that's too bad. So we'll speed it up. We'll close in on the AT-8 again on a hill here, aiming downwards on the move. No problem. You know, I just love this gun. I don't see what is so bad about this tank. Again, not even zoomed in, on the move, and we penetrate an AT-8 without any problem with 3 kills there. Damage wasn't as high at 1938, but still 38,000 credits on this game. Now, obviously, the amount of damage you do, the amount of provisions that you use in-game, you obviously have to pay for that. You obviously have to pay for repairs to your tank, the camo. So all of those are going to reduce your earnings. So I just wanted to throw this clip in as I talked about the KV-2s and setting this game up real quick. 4-on-1 situation here, and I've got a full health KV-2 in front of me, and I've only got 478 hit points left. So we'll get a shot into his turret there, and then we'll start to wiggle and bounce that shot. And you can see we're going to just move in here and no problems penetrating him, and we finish him off in 4 shots with a full health KV-2 and the amount of time it takes him to take a shot. So here's the second game, and bottom tier, and just wanted to point this game out just to illustrate the accuracy on this gun. So we're over 300 meters away right now, and keep in mind we are a tank destroyer. We drop the Type 62 there, and I probably should have just stayed zoomed in on the KV-3. KV-2 comes around, and just watch all of these shots as they go in. There's the second one. Third one. You know, we're 250 meters away at this point in time. 4 straight shots right where I wanted them into that KV-2. Now we only did 1525 in damage as bottom tier, but 35, almost 36,000 credits on that game. So quite frankly, I'd rather play this tank over the SU-100 or even the KV-2 for that matter. Give me a good accurate gun, and you know, I can certainly live with that. This has better mobility than the AT. And so I would probably rate the AT as one of the worst tanks in the game. So anyway, here we are, Oasis Palms, and you know, I'm just gonna sit at the back here, and basically, you know, set up camp and wait to see how the game unfolds. Obviously, as a slower moving tank, if you commit one way or the other, and I do this also in fast tanks, I like to see how the game unfolds, and then I can get to the action a little bit quicker. But as you can see, I've got 4 guys in front of me. They're doing some spotting here. Now, probably not going to get any shots through the buildings, but we're just keeping an eye on the flank there. We've got one guy out in the desert. He's got those guys occupied, and hoping to get some shots through here, but obviously they're doing a good job of staying behind the buildings. Keeping an eye on the flank, and just going to give it a little bit longer to see if I can get a shot in. I don't want to stay here too long if I'm not getting my gun involved. We're now down a tank. Down 2 tanks. Still nothing. Starting to get a little bit impatient. KV2 gives me a shot, and then he disappears. Our VK there is on extremely low health, and we are already down 2 tanks. So decide that now is the right time to push in. Our Leo has come to join us, so I have no protection in case anyone flanks. And you know, this all goes to my strategy of holding on to your hit points towards the end of the game, and then being able to hit point trade, waiting for the enemy to make a mistake. So we get a shot into the KV2, and we can then back up while he can't shoot us. So you look at the aiming on that tank. I mean, you know, I didn't wait at all. I just got it to where I thought it would go in, and I took the shot. So now we are only down 1 tank, except this VK is going to bite the dust here in a second. But yeah, again, love this tank on this quick reload and doing 240 damage. It'd be one thing if we were doing, you know, 160, 180, but we're doing 240 damage. Obviously, we get a bounce there, so we've now blocked 330 hit points. And this PZ4 is just going to try to run away from us, but with our fast reload and his not so great driving skills, we finish him off for our 3rd kill. And luckily this Leo does a great job here and cleans things up for us, and I spot the KV2 just in time to get turned around to him, and he's coming down the hill. We're going to angle as much as we can, and look at that. KV2, I mean, I don't know why they can't penetrate this thing, but it's like my KV2 defense tank. Anyway, so we ended up blocking 875 there, do 2367 damage. Almost waited till it was a little bit too late. Still have not got the mastery in this tank. We'll keep playing it, and hopefully we'll get that soon. But anyway, nonetheless, I was pleasantly surprised with the tank overall. I thought it was very playable. I did not hate it as much as I hate the AT line. So and you can make some money in it. So, you know, you can help your damage, average damage per game. You know, all around, I would rate this as one of the better TDs at the tier. So if you haven't already given it a try, why don't you? And as always, guys, stay safe out there. Get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.